I can tell you what we've done in the last 2 years is structural, it's directional, and if the history of Indian reforms from 1991 is written, this certainly will go down as one of the very critical phases.
You are someone who believes that India's potential to grow is in double digits, 8, 9, 10%.
You see,
have you made your peace with the fact that 7 to 8% is a realistic growth target right now?
You see, when the going is good, we are all at our best. And therefore, you can reach 8 and 9.5% growth rates. It's when the growing is very challenging, extremely difficult. Oil prices are low, commodity prices are low, global growth is not there, global demand is not there, trade is shrinking. In a hostile environment, to grow between 7 to 8% is a good growth rate. But if the global tailwinds become supportive, India has the potential to grow at least by 1% or 2%, certainly over and above our present growth rates.
We are seeing oil steadily reach the $50 a barrel mark. Do you fear we are perhaps going to be once more vulnerable to inflation, CAD? Is that tailwind beginning to wane?
This is one area where nobody has been able to predict
Even
reasonably what's going to happen. It's only after the event that people analyze what has happened. When the prices were close to $120, nobody really thought that they'll come down below 30.
True.
At 30, they said it could stabilize at 40, now it's 50. I think they are still range bound. And being range bound, they are within the limits of what India can consider to be affordable. And therefore, unless there is some very alarming increase, which doesn't look likely at the moment, I think we are reasonably comfortable.
Is there a range in your mind at which you'll be comfortable with oil?
Well, I don't want to give a figure, but current pricing, plus minus, is a range bound, which gives me some level of comfort.
I must though go back to the growth figures that we were talking about. I know the one-eyed remark of Governor Rajan did upset a lot of people in your government. You have of course been very measured in your reactions to that statement, but don't you believe that's an honest assessment? Because at 7 to 8% we can't be the shining spot.
You see, in today's context at 7 to 8%, we are the shining spot.
Okay.
Compared to the rest of the world, we are doing exceedingly well. But if we measure ourselves by our own standards and our own potential, I don't think we should really be rejoicing. Our potential is much more. We should, even in this adversity, understand as to how we can build firewalls around ourselves, look at some green shoots which may emerge out of the given situation, and then how do we add to this growth rate? For instance, at the moment, the one positive focus appears to be a possible good monsoon.
Is the delayed monsoon a bit of a concern for you? Did we celebrate too early?
I don't think we are celebrating. There is a cautious optimism as far as the monsoon is concerned. You see, after 2 years, if you have a good monsoon, it's not only the agriculture that moves up and the agrarian distress settles down a little. I think it also gives rise to demand. And then the spiral effect of that is some private sector picks up, banking activity picks up, and so on.
Right.
Construction can pick up, tractors will pick up, two-wheeler scooters will pick up. Now, all the rural-related growth indexes then come into operation.
True. You have just concluded the budget session of Parliament. It has been a very, very productive session as far as your own legislations go, but it was a very acrimonious session of sorts also between the Treasury benches on one hand and opposition on the other, and one of the reasons was the AgustaWestland scam. If I may ask you a very direct question, the Congress party believes you're not going after the scam, but you're actually targeting the Gandhi family.
At the end of the day, both Congress and BJP agree on some basic factors. The first factor is that there were bribes. Bribe givers have been convicted. The bribe taker is to be identified.
But is too much being made of a single note that had one name?
No. Let's forget that note. The fact that there were bribes and bribe giver has been convicted, middlemen have been identified. The only limb of this transaction that remains is who is the bribe taker? I think the Congress party should cooperate with us rather than assume that the cap possibly may fit somebody or the other to take such a hostile position. After all, Augusta is a real issue. If in defense transactions even today bribes are being paid, the country must identify those people.
We've cut down the cost by 12,000 crore this year.
That's right.
So you want to just increase the revenues, it's not right, because you must also reduce the cost.
True.
It is unprecedented that 12,000 crores of cost has been reduced, and we've tried to reduce more, including energy, which we never thought is possible, because we use the same open access, which when I was the Minister of Power, we had done that Electricity Act. Now, this year, this cost subsidy issue, first time, I don't know after how many years, or maybe for the first time, I don't know that, is the freight is reduced. It is not increased. The freight is reduced. Right. So just imagine the cost subsidization has already started happening. Additionally, we are creating a regulatory mechanism at a very advanced stage. We should be doing it in the next few months, which will then decide the freight and fare, also decide the efficiency of operation of the railways, and that will be an institutionalized mechanism. So that also we are doing.
And many people believe that authority is a game-changing idea of sorts.
It will automatically happen, because then this depoliticization happens.
Exactly.
See, then today, if I increase it...
And that decision should be left to market forces.
Absolutely. And then anybody can go and argue before them. Suppose consumers feel, customers feel, passengers feel that they have been denied their due, they can go to the regulator and do it.
What you perhaps could have done is increase fares in suburban trains. I mean, look at the experiment with Delhi Metro. People are willing to pay a lot more if you offer them good services. Why aren't you looking at plucking that low fruit?
The existing passengers, they are used to certain comfort level. They must obviously contribute a little more. But if you offer a new facility, people are willing to pay more for it directly.
Yes.
I'll give an example of Gatiman Express. It is 50% more tariff. It goes full all the time. Right. What does it mean? It only means that when you launch a new product, so we are launching new product, 4 new products we are launching this year. Completely new, brand new. Right. One is Tejas, one is Humsafar, third is UDAY. So these 3 products will be a completely on cost plus basis. We'll actually recover more money out of it. Okay. So more trains we ply, more revenues will come to railways. And then other one, which is called Antyodaya Express, which will be fully unreserved for the common people.
If I may just suggest something that has come from a lot of experts that we spoke to for this interview. They say that when there was a petrol price hike, people would go up in arms. Why are you hiking petrol prices? When the diesel price hiked, the same thing happened. But when you do it in small doses every month, it becomes palatable. It becomes, A, it's politically palatable, it's also easy for people to absorb. Why aren't you looking at something like that for both tariffs?
I will not say...
Is that something on your radar?
More, because something is already... But one thing is, that point is well taken, that rather than any giving shocks to people, if you give them little bit small doses, people appreciate it. And I think people will definitely understand it, because we have started working on it. We are improving the facilities, we are improving the capacity, we want to increase the safety. So people should contribute some part of that. If definitely we are not expecting all, but small part of that they should be able to contribute. So we're definitely going to do that.
The most highlighted projects of the Modi government, and there's a lot of euphoria, excitement around it, especially after you've taken over, is the bullet train. I'm going to be a little bit of a skeptic here, because some people believe, is it a project that you would perhaps repent at thinking it's an expensive mistake you've made? Is it merely atmospherics? Because not much has really moved there.
This is almost about a 1 lakh crore project. This will be more or less fully financed by the Japanese.
That's right.
At 50 years tenure, 15 years moratorium, 0.1% interest. There is going to be at least 85% of that will be manufactured in India.
So that's what I wanted to come to.
So we will
manufacture
in India. So we'll get a technology, we'll get the ability to manufacture stuff like this, we'll understand it. And as always happened, this will also integrate India into a different kind of speed game that is necessary.
What sort of costs are we looking at for the consumers, and what is in it for the consumer?
See, they have already done that calculation because JICA did this viability studies, and according to the JICA, the price that a customer will be paying will be slightly lower than the rate of budget airlines. So that's why we'll be able to compete with them.
The network operators can do it if they can bring telephony from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. They can also do it. They need to do it. They identify the gaps, reinforce it, and where it requires new investment, make it. Because a good quality service is also in their interest.
That's right.
Because mobile is going to become an important component of digital India. And let me tell you, Supriya, for the sake of viewers, as I see, digital India is going to be a $1 trillion economy.
You were really pushing the cause of the consumer as far as call drops is concerned. The latest Supreme Court order, do you believe in some sense also smacks of judicial overreach there?
Well,
And judicial activism, if I may.
it's a regulation of TRI. Okay, TRI contested it, they challenged it. I should not make any comment upon the judgment because the judgment of Supreme Court has come about.
Right.
But I can only say we are working our job honestly. And everyone, including the judiciary, need to understand that if India is becoming a global hub of mobile telephony, the consumers also expect that to be a good service.
That's right.
And that should be a collective obligation.
How are you looking to address that issue? Are you looking to changing or amending the TRAI Act? I mean, will you let telcos go scot-free?
No, there is no question of getting scot-free. I should be very clear to you. Under the law, the tariff issue, the penalty part, quality control is the domain of the TRI.
That's right.
I should not encroach upon that. If there is a case TRI feels we need to reinforce the legal lacuna, we are open to considering it. I will be very frank. The TRI will have to make an initiative in that regard. But I will go on a larger issue. When I speak in the parliament, when I am speaking to you, I have to defend the telecom sector. I'm also required to articulate the concerns of the consumers.
That if a legal action is required by the TRAI and it's initiated, you will be open to it. Are you open at this stage to make a legislative change to ensure the consumer's interest is protected? Because the Supreme Court in its order also said that Parliament can make a law on compensation if they want to.
I'm not closing the option. If after a structured consideration, TRI feels that certain requirements are required to be reinforced, we are quite open for that.
You know, telecom operators have cited many reasons for poor quality of service. They say spectrum crunch is there are not enough cell sites. I know they have made some progress after your very stringent monitoring. Do you believe at one level some of this argument is valid, or are you someone who believes they're shying away from making the investments that is required to be made for good service?
Now, there should not be any alibi. In the last auction, a very good quantity was there for auction, one of the highest of 1,10,000 crore. In the present auction, in few months' time, we are going to do about 2,000 megahertz, one of the highest ever spectrum. Spectrum sharing, spectrum trading has been allowed. Many operators are doing that also, you know it very well. Therefore, spectrum scarcity is no more a relevant ground.
No, private sector also showing a lot of interest. Then we have also allowed FDI.
That's right.
And now I can share with you more than 24 ambassadors of different countries.
Right.
They all came and met me. And they are all interested. Today also I have a smart city meeting.
True.
Some 6 ambassadors are going to be there. Today there is a CAA,
Yes.
this thing. They are all showing interest because foreign companies want to invest. They are all now excited about this PPP model. The only thing is I want to make the cities credit worthy. Simply because somebody is giving money, they are not going to invest it blindly. They also want some returns. And secondly, whether the city is ready, is it ready for reforms? Much depends on all these factors. But cities are getting ready. And I don't think at the end of the day, money is a problem. Because one is the foreign direct investment, second is World Bank and ADB, they are all also willing to support us also. And private sector also is interested, provided if you make a detailed project report which is really viable and which is transparent, then people are ready to come. A good beginning will be made. I think it will become a success.
Do the high real estate prices across India bother you at one level?
Definitely. Definitely. It has no rational. It's like Indian stock market. I have been studying, I'm a student of politics. I have been trying to study the market. There is no rational. The performance of the company and the price of the share has no correlation in most of the cases. Same is the case about the land prices. Astonishingly, even in my own place, Nellore, the rates are equivalent to Chennai. And sometimes your rates are equivalent to New York and big cities.
Right.
Without reason. This is all speculation.
There is so much of unsold inventory that's lying, and yet developers are not willing to correct
New
prices.
players are coming. That's a problem. New players are coming.
What do you attribute this to?
No, that is the Indian psychology. That's all. Now, with this regulation, there will be some system wherein this trend can be corrected to some extent.
You believe the real estate regulator bill can correct the high prices?
To some extent.
Why
definitely.
do you say so?
Because delivery, false promises cannot be made, and then people are assured of something. They will see whether these things are happening or not. They will be wise enough to invest also. And these developers also will be careful to see what they promise they deliver. So they will not purchase land at a very high price, and then you have to deposit your 70% of your money of the project in a bank. So you need money also. You have to show it also in open, what you call it as black and white way. So all these things are going to check this tendency.
At some stage, will you look at any sort of a direct regulation to check these prices? Because it is speculative in nature.
But at the same time, you can't do it.
Why not?
That will not be regulation, it will be a strangulation. Who will decide the price of which place? After all, it's a choice in the market. We are in an open market, and you cannot have a regulatory system. That's why regulator is there for what you promise, deliver. That's the regulation. Price and all, in a democratic system and in liberalization and all, you cannot fix price.
While you are trying to build a consensus, has the presence of Subramanian Swamy made your job a little tougher?
I don't think so. And this government, nah. So why are you so much concerned and worried about or afraid of Swamy? I'm not able to understand. One man, one MP, he raises issues, sometimes uncomfortable
because
issues.
People are a little confused. I'll tell you why. Because 2 days back, he said Raghuram Rajan should be thrown out of the RBI. Now, we were flooded with calls from investors, both global and local, saying what is happening.
He is the government. Is he the government?
So, are you saying that's not the party or the government's
view? That's not the party's view. Clear. That is not the party's view. The government has not taken any view like that. And members of parliament are free to give their advice. I wish they gave their advice in private rather than going public on such an important institution like Reserve Bank of India. But at the same time, in a democracy, people have got a right.
Our exporters are doing their very best, which is what they were doing all the while. And in some sectors, they've made global standards, not only reaching volumes and making the right value for money for that, but they've set standards like a pharmaceutical, or textiles, or automotive sector, gems and jewelry. They're all wonderful, excellent sectors which have made impact on the global market. But therefore, the point that has to be highlighted here is their level of competitiveness or the quality of the products that they produce have not in any way deteriorated. Their standards are absolutely as before.
Right.
But if the global demand situation and the global currency fluctuations are such that today they are not in a happy position, it is entirely on factors which are beyond us. The headwinds are very strong. There's no denying that. And therefore, I think we have to be realistic in understanding the situation. Yes, the figures show that 17 consecutive months this has fallen, negative growth, all that is, yes, admitted. But it has nothing to do with the competitiveness of our exports.
The visa issue. Is there a resolution in sight all along? Because there's a two-pronged problem. One is, of course, the cost of visa, and one is the number of visas. Do you believe we can settle with a higher cost but with higher number of visas, or is the situation going to be vice versa? Because this, of course, is gathering a lot of mind space.
It is not so black and white. It is not just the cost of the visa or the number of visas that they are allowing. See, there is also an attempt to say, let it be looked at as different pillars. Will you restrict the number for this category? Will you restrict that number for the other category? And so on. Either you look at it that way, or we have a total number which can be happily in some proportion divided between these pillars.
Yes.
So the question is, what is that number? Why should we agree to a number? Because in some sectors we have number which can far exceed, let us say, that total number which they would want to give. In some of the sectors we may not need any. So is the restriction going to be either way hurting our interests, or is it going to help us to promote other sectors where until now we've not had an opportunity? So it has to be a very, very calibrated approach in looking at what is the number going to mean to us. But the cost is not just cost in the fee. Why is that increase? Is there a justification? Do you have to have this cost increase for A, B, C reason which has a bearing on us? Or is it because you want to raise revenues in the US for funding?
Do you smell a protectionist stance there though?
Protectionist, and also, I don't want to use a harsh word, but
please go ahead.
It is to generate income for a cause which has nothing to do with us.
The states cannot continue to make losses and run the show. They'll have to make good the losses. How they do it is their choice. After all, they may choose to give a subsidy out of their state budget. They may choose to take the loss.
But there are fiscal implications
or
of
they
that.
may choose to right size the tariff if they are not able to make up with operational and financial improvements. Ideally, to my mind, no state needs to increase tariffs. Personally, I think with the 1,80,000 crore saving that the state discoms and correspondingly the people of various states can enjoy because of successful implementation of UDAY, can take care of the losses. In fact, we should actually be seeing price reductions. And the good news is Mumbai, BST has already petitioned for a price reduction. Gujarat has already given a price reduction to its people. So we are seeing the impact of UDAY already. As far as AT&C losses go, states have still to get their act in order. We still have the rollout of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, Gram Jyoti Yojana and IPDS, which is just getting kick-started as we speak. Right. Also, earlier, even the data was all wrong. We don't have correct data. Our first focus is to know what the problem is. Because any good redressal of a problem can only be done if your planning is right. And planning can only be right if your data points are right.
You know, the reason why I asked you that question was that most experts, when UDAY was launched, did laud it, but they also cautioned that if there are not going to be these corrective measures, the success of UDAY essentially lies on that. And which is why I'm asking you, are states making an honest commitment in honoring that?
Very, very good commitment. I must compliment all the states of India for the enthusiasm with which they are looking at UDAY, they are working with UDAY. More particularly, I must compliment, for example, the state of Rajasthan, the state of Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh, who have really taken on UDAY full stream ahead. They are the ones who have given out most of the bonds. And they were the ones which had the maximum stress. Vasundhara Raje and Khattar inherited a terrible state of affairs when they came into government. Uttar Pradesh has been a sad story all through the last many years. Successive governments in the last 5, 7, 10 years have completely messed the Uttar Pradesh power system.
If you actually look at the bonds today, some naysayers believe that they have not found the takers, genuine takers. Takers are largely in public sector entities.
Some of the naysayers felt that it will flood the market and there will be a problem. We were able to give 1 lakh crores of bonds in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks' time. It didn't impact the market at all, and India has a deep financial market. I don't think 1 lakh crores really
could have toppled
it. And more importantly, the private sector demand was huge. It is unfortunate that we didn't have more bonds to give. If you recall, in the end, the last week, the demand was more than the supply. And because of that, today, Reserve Bank is empowered or has the confidence to say, we'll do a reverse auction of these bonds.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.